Incentive-based water management tools are designed to motivate or incentivize water-using or managing parties to change or modify the way they use or manage water, not only because it is sustainable or, say, scientifically sound, but also because it's in their financial interest. So general examples of these methods could vary from water quantity transfers, water quality transfers, payments for watershed services, recycling water, and also subsidies for different technologies or management techniques that would help conserve water. And usually these methods can provide more flexibility and innovation, which is needed, especially as we are trying to adapt to climate change. We need solutions that need to be adaptable, and that is often different from approaches that use strict laws and regulations or sometimes large infrastructure projects, which are always costly but not always effective. The work informs decision-making about drought management and about agricultural water management. There is a growing interest in putting stronger limits for groundwater use and implementing groundwater markets in different areas, including California and other states. As the pressures on water resources are rising in many regions and are likely to continue to rise, there is a growing interest in understanding and using more innovative, flexible, adaptive, and less costly methods. Working on these issues, I've witnessed that a diverse group of stakeholders are interested in these methods, and that includes practitioners, water resource managers, policymakers, the entire agricultural community, as well as environmental sector, urban developers, and also private sector, including corporations and investors. So I feel that there's this big global shift towards sustainability, and I think that the demand for incentive-based solutions will only continue to increase. Water markets are a good example of an incentive-based water management approach. Water trading is a transfer of a right to use a defined amount of water for a specified time period in a specified location and for a specified use. And that is usually in exchange for a financial compensation. Water markets, when carefully designed, can be used to provide flexibility and lower drought risk to crop growers. It's a mechanism that allows to reallocate water to be used in times and when and where it's most needed. So considering agricultural sector, for example, ability to apply enough moisture during a specific growth period is very, very important. And so water markets, especially in times of water shortage, could be used to help with that. Learning about how these tools had been already implemented and tested in some areas, like Nebraska, might be very insightful and helpful for policymakers and water managers in these other regions that are trying to implement those tools. Nebraska is unique because we have groundwater regulated by natural resources districts, and we have 23 of them. So they are focusing on local issues, and so being able to make those rules uniquely specific to people's needs in those localized areas makes them unique. When groundwater is becoming more regulated and groundwater markets are being developed in different regions, learning from places like Nebraska can be beneficial to water managers in those regions. In terms of my findings, as I said, groundwater transfer rules are very localized. So they vary greatly across the state. Generally, they are not a new tool used to address water supply variability issues, but what makes them unique in Nebraska is that they've been active for a long time. They're very different across Nebraska, and they're highly regulated by local governments, which is uncommon, especially when it comes to groundwater management. There are different types of transfers, formal and informal, and they both are regulated. Transaction costs vary greatly as well, and they're very important to consider in water markets. For example, administrative fees associated with transfer processes can vary from $0 to $10,000 in Nebraska. Also, there are different environmental and conservation goals that are reflected in groundwater transfer rules. And that largely depends on local hydrogeology as well as requirements listed in interstate compacts and federal endangered species programs. Generally, the key word is variability. I do think that learning from it and what's behind it can be very helpful when implementing similar markets in other places. What makes me happiest is when research findings are picked up as useful and helpful by local water managers and producers. I would love to continue doing that to help address practical stakeholders' concerns about water policy issues. I want to see people reach out to us with questions, ideas, and feedback so that we can engage all different stakeholders in solving these issues. We also want to advance research in agricultural water management, which is why we use interdisciplinary approaches, the latest, most rigorous scientific methods. And we work to have our research findings published in peer-reviewed journals to increase credibility, and this way we can reach different and new stakeholders as well. I'd love for us to be a place where different groups of people turn for answers, seeking to better understand policies and their implications, and also to help improve those policies.